Hey everyone, it's Desiree, and welcome back. This is another part to our junk journal series. I'm going to stop numbering them because now we're just getting into different things that you can do for your junk journals or things that you can do individually. You can incorporate them into your card making, scrapbooking, whatever, however it is you craft. So today's episode or video has really been asked for when I had shown it in the junk journal, and it's the paper beads. So now there's a lot of videos out there for paper beads out on YouTube. So I do encourage you to just type in paper beads and you will see so many different ways. I'm going to show you what I use, what I do, things that you can do and so forth. And again, I've learned it from so many people by watching YouTube. So there's just not one person. So this is what I store my paper beads in. You can see I get bored a lot sometimes. Well, a long time ago, a while back, this is all of what I did. Because I do incorporate them into other crafts that I make, such as coffee cozies and bookmarkers and all of that fun stuff. But these are what my paper beads look like. So these here are made out of cardstock, which is a thicker weight cardstock. So this is like 80-pound range, maybe 100-pound. You can see how thick we go, or round in the diameter when it comes to them. These here are done with paper, pattern paper, like the paper pads that we've been using in our junk journal. So you can see the difference in the thickness. Okay, yeah, be prepared. This is probably going to be a long video. I didn't think it was going to be too long, but yeah, I'm just already feeling it. So hang in there, stay with me. So you can see the difference in the widths. These here, when it comes to a bead like this big and chunky bead, I'm actually layering papers on top of each other. So this could be 6 pieces of pattern paper cut to the same size to create this thickness. This is actually 2 different pieces of pattern paper just rolled differently to get that shape and what that looks like. Same thing, chunky. This too is a piece of pattern paper. Now I'm just going to stick with the general, this in different sizes. I might show you, the different tricks that you can get from this. But I do encourage you to go on YouTube, just search paper beads, and you will see all kinds of ideas. This is just a straight piece of 1-inch wide paper. Again, pattern paper made into a tube. You can do that as well. So there's all kinds of choices. Now, again, a lot of mine are with pattern paper that I've just cut up. And now, again, you don't have to use your pattern paper. If you have it, though, use it. Now, these are 12 by 12 usual sheets to get these very small ones like this. That is a 6 by 6. But you can see how much smaller that is. You can see this is very fine when it comes to the, and again, it's all in the way that you cut your paper. Again, this here, 6 by 6 paper pad, cut very small. And again, we're going to get into that. I'm going to show you. This is obnoxiously, thin or cut thin, but you can see because it's cardstock, you get this neat looking disc formation. All right, so there's all kinds of things that you can do. These are different papers layered on top, solid papers. So you can use solid papers to create your beads as well. So, all right, so we'll keep that one out. I'm going to keep this one out, and I'll keep that one out. I'll keep that one out. And then I'll keep that one out. Okay, so this is just what I store them in. I'm going to go through how I get them to be glossy, how I get them, you know, how I seal them, what I use, the different things that you can use, and so forth. Now, again, all of this is a lot of pattern paper. To me, that's easiest. Doesn't mean you have to use pattern paper. So what are the other things that you can use? The best thing that you can use is if you have magazines, save them. Because magazines can be one of the best resources. So I subscribe to this one. I absolutely love it. But what you can do is if you find a page, like see, this has so many different colors going on here. So if I take this page, I'm going to tear that out. Let me find another one. You want to pay, now you could use something like this, because again, that's like pattern paper, but you want to have a page that's got huge photo, a nice big photo, lots of colors, lots and lots of colors. You don't want something like this because you're just going to get words. Now, unless you just want words, absolutely. So let's just take that so that you can see what that would look like. Okay, so magazines, it can be any magazine. It can be architecture. It can be cosmopolitan. It can be Sweet 16. It can be a quilting magazine. Whatever it is that you want, a food magazine, that would probably be good with all the pictures of the food and those different colors. Again, you're not going to see the image when you create your paper bead. Sorry, I keep moving away because just to open up my area here. So you can use anything that you're looking for. Now, I do suggest when you're using this here, okay, a paper from a magazine, you're going to use multiple sheets at the same time. And I'll explain why. I mean, this is very thin. This is like right up there with pattern paper. The difference is with the pattern paper, it's 12 inches, okay? And here are the ones that, I mean, I keep them cut and I just pull from them, okay? So here you've got a wide one. These are my wide ones. There was, I'll tell you what, one of the best pattern paper pads that I had. Now it's buried right now. I can't pull it out. I have no idea why I purchased it, but it's what we do. I know I found it at my Joann's. This is years ago, guys. I don't even know if it's still around. And all it was huge 12 by 12 photos of flowers, landscape, the sky, just all of those different types of things. This is like one of them. This is a bunch of roses. But this paper creates beautiful beads. Absolutely beautiful beads. That's all I use it for. So, you know, look, maybe you've got that paper pad where, you know, I had to have it, and you're just not using it now. Oh, pull that little baby out and let's cut it. The key to creating your paper beads is to cut your strips, rather, on an angle, okay? So you're going to have one side wide, and then you're going to cut it into a long triangle. That's the key to having a paper bead. Now, you can also cut your strip just this wide all the way down. So this strip is 1.5 inches wide. So you would just cut a strip 1.5 inches wide by 12. You would be creating a bead like this, which is fine. You certainly can. You can create any type of bead that you want. You can also use blank paper, copy paper. Just cut the long end on the 11 inch, keep cutting that length, and you can have all of these just white strips. because then the beauty of it is you can decorate these if you want. You can color these if you want, for whatever color you want. So if you've got a lot of white cardstock, here you go. You can use it. So again, don't say, okay, oh, I gotta have pattern paper. No, this is just something that I use. I find it's easiest. If you've got magazines, cut these up. Honestly, the magazines give you some great results because of the color, because you're looking at it here and you're like, oh, okay, this. But when you put this into a strip, it's going to be amazing to what you get and what comes out of it. Okay? So you can see I already have these cut here. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to push these off to the side. And what I'm going to grab is I'm going to use the things that are easier. Now you can use a pencil. You definitely want a ruler. Now it can be any ruler that you want. Okay, I just like using this. I find it's easy and it's quick. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to lay my sheet down. I want all the even edges to the same side. There we go. Okay. Well, you know what? Yes, I want all the even edges to the same side. Because what I'm going to do, I want to even this up. So I'm going to line this up on my mat. I do have my mat. You can use your paper trimmers however you want. Now again, you can simply measure if you just have a ruler and a pencil. And cut it that way, because you can use a pair of scissors. Now the mat that I'm using is by Arteza. I really like this mat. I love the size and I love the fact that it's gray. So okay, so now I've got my even edge. So now what I want to do, I'm going to keep these, since these are so thin and I'm using a rotary cutter, I can just keep these down. So I'm going to keep them down on my mat, and I know you can't see the top, but that's okay. I'll keep moving it here. Can you see the bottom? Yes. So what I want to do, I'm going to take my ruler, and I want these to be about 1 inch wide. So I'm going to go 1 inch over. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in on an angle. I'm going to come in on this point up here. I'm going to hold my ruler down, and I'm going to cut along that edge. I now have some strips. These may not be the strips that you use, but that's okay. Hold on to these. So now I'm going to take this and I'm going to lay this down. I always like to start that first cut. Now this here is going from this line to this line. So what I want to do is I want to even this out. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to come in to 1.5 inches. So that's 1/2 of an inch. And again, you can eyeball this, and it's pretty much what I'm doing, but for those of you that like to have numbers, you can look at numbers. And I'm going to cut that. So now I'm going to put these aside here. Now I can go back from this point here, I'm going to pivot to 1 inch. Let's see if I can get this in, because I can't expand. Okay, I think I'm just getting into that. Let's see, let me see. Yeah, just barely. Okay, so I'm going to go onto the corner here. That's where my ruler is going to sit. And then on the top, yeah, I can't zoom in or out here, guys, sorry. So I'm going to come in 1 inch. And I'm going to keep doing that, going back and forth. So now I'm going to pivot this way to come out 1 inch and to be at that point. And that's how I'm going to get my strips. Oh, I hope you can see this because, oh my goodness, if you can't. And now I'm going to do my next cut. I'm going to stack them on top. I'm going to pivot this way over to my inch mark. So it is helpful to have a grid, a mat that does have a grid on it, because now what you can do is you can just keep pivoting 1 inch on the bottom and match up onto your point. Do you have to be exact? Absolutely not. Just be in the general vicinity of the point and move yourself over an inch. This never has to be perfect. I cannot stress that enough. Nothing ever has to be perfect. But you want to be in the vicinity. Okay. Now, if you want to save this, you can. That's up to you. I do put that when I start off. I do set those aside. I really don't use those. And even the ones that get me started. Now, I will look at these. Let me put these up here. These are triangles, so I'm going to look at these and say, okay, where am I going to go here? What are this? And you know what? This looks very interesting to me. So I'm going to keep these 3 together. Curious to see what that bead would look like. Because again, it'll be something that's tough. And I struggled with it when it came to using a magazine, because I was looking at the picture. I was looking at, okay, well, that's not going to give me a good way for a bead or anything else like that. So that's why I went to the pattern paper, because to me that was easy. I saw the pattern. I saw what it was going to do. It took me to do those beads to realize, okay, I'm not seeing the pattern. I'm not seeing that pattern of the paper. I'm looking at the color, and as it continues to roll and move in on itself, it'll give you that different variation. That's what's giving you the color of the bead. So, and it creates that marble effect almost. So, I get it. I was there. Absolutely. Took me a while. Now I'm good. All right. So, I'm going to hold on to this. I'm just going to keep on taking, I'm going to take these and I'm going to put these up here as well. I'm going to then take this, because remember I said you could take cardstock. You can take white copier paper. And if you just take if you have alcohol markers, if you have Sharpies, you can use this to color. If you have all of these alcohol markers and you've got all of these different shades and everything else, great. You know what? You can do that on this. So if I'm just look at, I'm just going to put together a green here. I just grabbed 3 greens. I'm hoping these are the last ones that I used in a color combination, because that would be really funny. I'm just saying. So if I take this, I'm just going to come here. I'm going to cover the edge. I'm going to pray this is the next color. If it's not, it's okay. Because look, I'm just fanning out into that. Okay, so this was a last color combination that I used here. Woohoo! And then the same thing on here. Just going to fan out onto that. And now I've got a variation. Doesn't have to be perfect, because again, you don't even have to color the centers. You could actually just color along the edge of this, because you're not going to see the center as you keep going in. And you'll see that as we make the beads. So I'm going to set that one aside, because we're going to do that one as well. So these are the different beads. I'm going to do this one too, so that you can see what that's going to look like. And then I'll do some, we'll put this one in. This is a thicker cardstock, so I'll show you that one. And you can see that doesn't have a point. And that's okay, because we're going to come in with that one. So we'll do a little tricky thingy there. They are a lot of fun. I really do like making paper beads. They travel so well. I will say that. It's awesome. So, I mean, again, that's the good point, because they do travel. Let me get one more thing here. Of course, I never have everything that I need. Okay, hold on. Let's see. Okay, so I have a piece of 6x6 paper here as well. This, I literally just pulled this out of my scraps. This is a piece of white cardstock, and we're going to make a tube. And then the same thing with this one. I'm just going to line this up. I'm going to grab my ruler, and I'm going to make 1.25 inches. No, I think I'll make just 1 inch. I like the inch when it comes, oh, what the heck, 1.25 inches. And I'm just going to cut that. So I'm going to push this all off to the side, and we'll get started. So the things that you've needed so far to do this is a cutter. Now you can use a rotary cutter. Now just know that once you use that rotary cutter for paper, it is now deemed for paper. Okay? Bottom line, deemed for paper. You want a ruler. It doesn't have to be this ruler. I just find it easy because of the grid. If you don't have one of these, you can actually use this to measure going across. But it can be a regular ruler, a pencil. So again, no fancy tools are required for this. Now that I've just said that, to roll your beads, you can use a toothpick. I will not have you watch me do that because it'll take me forever to do that. The tools, there are many tools out there. These here are my favorite. This is a company, it's on Etsy, and it's called 5 Creations, and they make them. What I like about these is they're a little tiny slit in those, and they're different sizes, and we'll get into that. I mean, you can get these where there's just a piece of metal at the end, and you can roll your bead up with this. You can use a knitting needle. You can use a double pointed knitting needle. Again, you want the even part of the shaft for when you're rolling your beads. You can use a food skewer. You can get those at the dollar store. Okay, so anything that it's got an even shaft and it's round, that's what you're looking for. I just like these because of the slit within the paper, and you can see these tops have different widths. One of these widths you can actually, you'll see them if you do a search on YouTube, where you can actually make your own Pandora beads. Yeah, it's really cool. I used to do that too. Okay, so you have these different widths. Now the ones that I like, this one's my favorite, and this one is my favorite. These are the two main ones that I do use. But there are times where I use these as well. This one's great for a very, very fine hole, which is wonderful at times. But I do like these as my favorites. So when it comes to the cardstock, they will all fit in here. So the other thing that you're going to need, glue. You can use Elmer's glue. You can use a glue stick. You can use the dollar store glue. Whatever glue you have. You don't have to use your good glues. This is just fine. I find a glue stick is a lot easier because I can just swipe it along. So let's get started. Let's stop me yammering here, and let's get moving on what a bead could look like. So I'm going to first take these, and I'm going to make sure that they're lined up. If you're using multiple papers, you want to make sure that they're lined up to each other. I always put the back side facing me, and I'm going to grab this one because this is pretty wide, and these are longer. These are not as long, and you need the shaft to be the length of your width of your bead. So I'm going to put these into the slot, and I'm going to start rolling, keeping it on my finger so that I can hold it. And as I roll towards me, I'm going to make sure that the papers are staying together, they're staying taut, and that I'm staying in the center as I continue to go down. So every time I'm stopping, I'm actually pulling this way to get it back into the center to straighten itself out. And I'm going to continue to roll. And you can see, if you look at the sides, what the paper is doing. It's giving you a design. It's giving you a marbled look. And you just didn't think that you would get it. So now that I'm at the end, I'm going to take my index finger here and I'm going to hold this. And what I'm going to do is, and I should have done this before, okay, we're going to use, I'm going to now flip this over. I'm going to use my liquid glue that I always have on my table here, and I'm going to put a little bit on this one. When you have multiple layers, you want to make sure you get all the layers. So I'm just going to spin, keep spinning, keep spinning. See how that one came up? I'm going to put a little glue on that, and I'm going to keep spinning, keep spinning. And the glue that seeps out the side, you are actually putting on the bead off of your finger as you're rolling this. And there's your bead. I think it's absolutely beautiful and amazing at the same time. It's actually, this would be great for one for Christmas because of the colors. All you have to do is push it off. It's not going to pull out. It's not going to get caught. Once this is done, I set it aside. There are more steps that we have here, okay? So I just set that aside. So let's look at our tube. This, okay? So I'm going to grab this one again, and I'm going to start rolling. Now you can tell it's cardstock. Now with this, as I'm rolling, I want to make sure that I'm trying to stay straight. Now, let's say I don't. You know what? I'm not worried about it. Because what I can do with this one, now it's not glued yet, and that's okay. Because I'm going to come out. I am going to put a little bit of glue, and I'm going to roll this up. I have ink on my fingers, that's why it went like that, which is fine. So when I pull this off, all I have to do is lay it on my table and push down. That will straighten this bead out so that my sides are somewhat even. Okay, now that's a chunky chunky bead. So how do you make them less chunky? Very easily. All you have to do is grab a pair of scissors and just cut it down. So let's make this one. Again, I'm going to put it in that slit and I'm going to start rolling towards me. I'm going to add some glue. And I'm going to pinch and hold. Again, you can use Elmer's glue. You do not need to use anything fancy because the next few steps that we do when it comes to our paper beads is it's going to seal the bead. Okay, it's absolutely going to seal it. So you don't have to worry about if this is sealed correctly, because we have to put, there's like 4 coats of something, of 2 different things that we're going to be putting on. Okay, so that is our tube. It's not a great tube, but you know what, it's fine. It's absolutely fine. So here's the one that we colored. I'm going to choose one of these And again, you can use all the same one. It doesn't matter what you use. You can use whatever it is. I use this index finger a lot, and I always roll towards myself just to make sure that point is going to come down the center of my bead. That's what gives it the shape. Now, you can keep it towards the bottom. This is actually turning out to be somewhat of a tear shape. And you know what? I'm okay with that. And again, the glue that oozes out is fine. And that is a really pretty bead. And it's a teardrop because I went off center. So you can see just by coloring them, use your white cardstock. If you've got markers, they can be any markers. They don't have to be alcohol markers. They can be any ones that you want. You can color your own beads and get a beautiful variegation on that bead. And I have glue all over my fingers because that will happen too. Oh yes. So we're going to put that there. Okay, so I'll show you this one. I'm going to find the slit and I'm going to start rolling this up. When I see it's going off the center, I stop and I just tug it and let it go back into the center. Are there times where you will lose the grip and it'll unwind itself? Absolutely. And that's okay. Just going to add a little bit of glue to the edge. I'm just going to roll her up. And with the glue seeping out, that'll help secure that down and just hold it. But look at that one. You saw the pattern before. Okay, pull her off, set her aside. So one of the last ones that I'll show is this one here. So this does not have a point. It has a flat edge. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start. I'm actually going to use a little bit thicker of a hole in this one. No reason why, just in case somebody was asking. This is just a finer one. Wire will still go through this because we put wire through these. This one's just a little bit thicker, which is fine. It'll actually make your bead a little bit wider if the thicker of the band that you go. Now, you can also use this one if you want. So I just like to use this one when it comes to the really wide, if I cut them really wide. So this one here, I'm just going to start rolling. It's going to start coming in, and it doesn't have a quick drop in when it comes to the center. It's not moving too quick. Now, what I can do is, here's my second piece. If this is the same width, which it pretty much is, I'm going to tuck that. I don't know if you guys can see that. I'm going to tuck this one right in here. And I'm going to start rolling, and I'm going to make sure that they're going to stay even. So I'm going to come in with my thumb and my middle finger to just hold them in. And now I'm going to continue to roll. And it's okay if they're not perfect, because what's cool is you're going to see that black coming through. Now eventually what's going to happen is this is going to switch over. So that paper now is caught in behind, and now I'm going to continue to roll up. And I'm going to put a good line of glue on this one because I really want this one to hold, and it will, but I just really want to make sure. And that extra glue on my finger, I'm just going to roll around. So again, if you cut, and you can see that's our bead, you can get creative. You can have fun with it. Now the beauty of it, since there's not glue throughout, I don't like to put glue throughout my beads, because if I want to try to shape it, I can, and that's just by pushing back and forth if I want that black stripe more in the center. Put my hand under that so you can see it. And it makes it a little thicker, gives a chunky look, so that it's not so skinny, or anything like that. So you can have fun, you know, create your different beads. Okay, I'm back. So we have our beads done, and then these are just some other beads that I've gotten done as well. Again, that's all pattern paper. Because again, to me, it's very easy. While you can get the differences in this, that's what your magazines will do, which I think is really cool. I do like just the marble effect that my pattern paper can give me, or just the speckles going through it. I love this, you know, that you can just use, you know, again, use what you have, use what's in your arsenal already when it comes to all of this. So the next thing that I like to use is I use Mod Podge. Now I create a mixture of my Mod Podge, and I can't find my bottle, but this is the matte Mod Podge that I use. So I put some Mod Podge in here, and then I do add some water to it. So it's probably about 2 parts Mod Podge to 1 part water. I do like to thin it down just a little bit. I'm going to put my little tiny thing here down too. So this is for your first, excuse me. You're going to do 2 coats of your Mod Podge. Now I also get one of these. This is a floral foam. I get this from my local dollar store. I puncture holes in it. The holes never change. And then I just set some toothpicks on this, just so I know that's where they are going to go. Now what's going to happen is it's going to depend upon the bead. Now this bead here has a very thin hole, so this will sit on the edge of my toothpick. Okay, hopefully I'm able to edit all that out. Sorry about that. So as I said, this one has got a very fine opening, so I can use a toothpick for that. This one's a little bit thicker, so I can use, these are bar stirs or coffee stirs. I got these at my dollar store, and sometimes, and not this case, I'm able to put this bead on top of that. So, and of course this is not going to work. Now this one will work. So I can put that there, and then this will actually fit over the toothpick, because the toothpick, what the toothpick's going to do is just stop it from moving. Now, you don't need all of this. What you can actually do is just grab some tape. This case, I'm just going to use my painter's tape. I like to tear it in half. And then what I can do is I can just put this on my toothpick. Again, doing the same thing, just rolling it up. And what this creates is a stopper. So it's going to stop the bead from coming down. So this will still fit on there. Boom. See, it stops it. See, this one too. Boom. It stops it, so that you're able to use your finger and say, okay, I can put that in there. All right. So that's why I do that. Now, if that doesn't work, that's okay, because what I'll do is I will just put this on there. Because again, you're just looking to hold it. Now, I thought it was very strange because these usually did work for me. I don't know why. I must not have the right things, but that's okay. So what we do, you want old brushes. So this is considered my sealant. I put my paper bead up onto my toothpick. And for time constraints here, I'm going to use these smaller ones because they work a little bit better. And I just get them ready. All right, so now these are all ready for me to go. So I have my bar next to me. I have an old brush. This is the only thing this brush gets used for. Look, I even have the word sealant on it. And I'm just going to grab one of these. I'm going to go in. And all I do is I turn. I just put a very loose coat on this. But I want to make sure that it is covered. But I don't want it dripping either. So you can see I just cleaned that off. I'm going to go back in, put it down, and then I just spin. Making sure that I cover the entire bead with the Mod Podge mixture. Now you can use the Mod Podge mixture straight on. Sometimes I get fancy and I just keep doing one of these and I turn. I just like to just water it down a little bit. To me, it's a lot easier to either keep the brush still, just roll the bead through it. I just find that process easier and more production line. I mean, you can really get into this and have a whole production line going on here. So you want to make sure that you have a good coat, but you don't want it dripping. Because you have to put, I put a second coat of the Mod Podge on. You don't have to, it's just something that I do. One coat is fine. I use the Mod Podge like I do the glue. And what this is doing is it's going over all of the edges of the bead, because especially if it's tapered, and it's just sealing or it's gluing all of this together, so it's not going to come apart. You're creating a nice layer of glue. Now this is the mat that I use when it comes to the Mod Podge. I let this dry for about 1 hour. I make sure that it is dry, okay? Because I go off and I do other things. So let me come back when they dry. Okay, so these are dry. They have a nice matte sheen. Now you can leave them like this. This is fine. You don't have to do the next step. I just like the look of the glass. This is very shiny. It actually provides a good coat. I don't know if you can hear that, but I mean, it actually clicks like they're glass beads, but they're not. So what that is, it's called Diamond Glaze by Judikins. This is an adhesive. This is almost, believe it or not, this is almost like Glossy Accents, but Glossy Accents is a lot thicker. You don't shake this. If you shake this, you need to let it sit for like weeks to get all of those bubbles out, which it won't do. So don't shake it, just say. Now you can also use what's called triple thick. This is a gloss glaze, and that's what these both are. These are both glazes in a sense. This is a brush, this is literally a brush on gloss glaze, okay? This does take longer, and I don't think it dries as hard as this. I just like the way that this dries. I don't know. I mean, this is good. I'm not saying it's not, but I like the results of this one better. I do a mixture of this as well. So this is a dimensional adhesive. This is one of those adhesives. Let me make sure this top is, it is, okay. This is one of those adhesives that if I put a dot down, it'll dry like that. It's like a glossy accent. And you can see how thick it is. And you can see that bubble in there. And what that'll do is it like creates a dome when it dries. So it is thick. So again, I do about a 2-part to 1-part water. So 2 parts of the diamond glaze and 1 part water. So you can see how liquid it is. Now it might just even be a 2 parts to 2 parts equal. Light fluffy brush. This can be washed in water. And I'm going to do the same thing. Now this is definitely 2 coats. So I'm going to put my brush in there. We don't dip. We don't want to dip. We want to brush. Okay? Because we don't want to clog up the hole. Ask me how I know. I'm just saying. So I'm going to start brushing this. And you want to turn and brush. You want to remove all of the air bubbles if you get any. That's why we don't shake. And you want to put a nice coat. So turning, turning, turning. Your first coat will be pretty thin. And then that's what that's going to look like. And then you're going to put it back into your foam. All right, so I'm going to keep doing these. And again, this is the first coat. I put a minimum of 2 coats on these. And you can see this is a lot of, you know, production going on here. I mean, you roll all your beads, then you put the Mod Podge on. I mean, you can do this in a whole line type thing, very much so. My first coat is usually a little bit thinner. I like to spread it out. Now this glaze too will also help seal them as well. Does it make them waterproof? No. Because you can still get water inside the bead. You're not putting this stuff on the inside of the bead, and I would not recommend it. But what it will do is you will be able to wipe down your beads with a damp cloth. That's what this will do. In case they get caught on something or you spill something on them, you will be able to wipe them down. All right, now this first coat will take, and you want to wash your brush, get it in water right away, and make sure, and I like a soft, fluffy brush for this. You want definitely soft bristles, no white bristles. Like none of these, okay? None of those. You want very soft bristles. Not the dollar store brushes either, because you do want something that does have somewhat, you know, a gathering. Doesn't need to have a point, not a watercolor brush, but you want to make sure that it's just soft bristles, because that helps to flow around as you're using the Mod Podge and also the diamond glaze. Now you want to brush for each one. I find that's best because sometimes there's little bits of Mod Podge in there and you don't want to get that onto your bead. All right, so I'll be right back once these are done. This first layer will take 15 minutes to dry, 15 to 20 minutes. Okay, isn't it amazing how, you know, time flies? Okay, and also you always want to put your lid on too. So I'm going to start from the same bead again. I'm going to get my brush in there, and now I'm going to put my second coat on. And this is just going to, and again, it doesn't make the bead smooth because I like the texture of the bead. I like the feel of the paper, of those ridges that you're creating as you're rolling the bead. What it does is it just gives it a really nice glossy shine. Now, I won't be able to show you what these look like coming off of the toothpick because this last coat, I set these up on a shelf and they will sit there for 24 hours. I do like to let them dry for 24 hours before I even touch them again. This way I make sure that they get a nice, they're dry completely. Nothing's going to nick them. Nothing's going to cut into them to create a dent. So I just put them out of the way and let them dry on their own. Now, the one thing when it comes to the triple thick, it is literally that. It is extremely thick. So I don't water that one down. And if I'm using that, one layer of the Mod Podge, which again, you're fine with one layer, and then one layer of the triple thick, and I will show that to you. So these are done, and I'm going to set those aside up on my shelf for 24 hours. Now, and again, for video purposes, I'm not going to sit there and wait till they dry. So, but I do want to show you, if I take one of, let me grab one in here. Matter of fact, I'm going to use that one. I think that one is awesomely chunky and wonderful. All right, so I'm going to have that sitting there. I'm just going to pull this back in. So I don't have any Mod Podge on this, but this stuff, when it says it's triple thick, they are not kidding. This is very thick. I do not water this down. It's sticky. I mean, you could just see it. See how thick it is, which is absolutely wonderful. I'm going to push. I'm wondering. Yes. Okay. So you can see it just oozes. This, I do 2 coats as well. You don't shake it. You want to make sure you go right up to the edge because you're not putting that layer of Mod Podge down. Oh, I got it on my finger. But you want to make sure all of these the paper crevices and joints are absolutely filled. And this is absolutely, I can show you what one looks like. And you want to make sure you go right up to the edge with this. But you can see, I mean, it's just filling in those crevices. So this is a very nice, now again, I come in here with my nails because at this point it's going to slide down as I brush. I'm just going to put that thick layer. And now I'm going to come up here with my nails because I want it to stop spitting. A little spitting is fine, but a lot of spitting is not. I'm just going to come in, going to pat it around so I can get this liquid into those crevices. So this does take longer to work with because, again, you've got to make sure that the layers are covered and everything else. This, you definitely want this to dry for 24 hours. But you can just see, I don't know if the camera is catching that. It's almost like using the ultra thick embossing powder. It actually smooths out those paper edges if you don't, get this wound, extra perfectly, which it doesn't have to be. But this actually just smooths all of it out. All right. So I'm going to actually grab that specialty toothpick there because this is going to slide down right onto my finger. Yes. And I'm going to put that there, but at least it's not going to think. So that'll be able to dry. Okay. So 24 hours now at that point. And what do you get? You know what you get? And again, make sure you always cover these up. I have had this stuff in this container for over a year and it's still phenomenal. So you're good. Get this in your water right away, because if not, you will need another brush. Absolutely. So what you get are all of these wonderful beads. Now, in the next video, what I'll show, because this one's long enough. So in the next one that'll come out shortly afterwards, I'm going to show you what I do with these. You know, how I, what do I do with these? And I incorporate them. And what I like to do is wire wrap around them and just make them beads that can be attached to a charm. Or, if you make a big tassel, these can be added in there. So that's what I really like to do. I use these in my, I make bookmarkers. I sew them with fabric, and then I have these coming off of the bottom wire wrapped. But you can just see the shine. That's what I want to show you here, the shine that you get. Now for these here, actually this one here, nope, not that one. Hold on. Yeah, these. This was done using triple thick, and this was done using the diamond glaze. You can hear that click. You can also hear it on this. I'll be honest though, this took me 3 days to let it dry, because every time I would do this, I would put another dent in it. So the triple thick just takes longer to dry. One coat is all you need, but it does take longer to dry. Where your diamond glaze, first coat 20 minutes, next coat within 24 hours, and you're set to go. Okay, so I just keep making them, and then I fill that in here. Okay, so for the next video, I will show you the wire wrapping and the things that you can do with them. So I do hope you enjoy this. I hope it's what you wanted. I hope it's worth waiting for, because everybody was asking for this, and I think that's great. Of course, all the products that I use when it comes to the diamond glaze, I've found a couple places where I can get it. It's not ready, it may be in a Hobby Lobby. I don't have one near me. I know I have a Michael's, and I know they don't carry it. They carry the triple thick. So I do order this online. I usually get it from Create for Less. So, but I'll have it linked down from a couple places. Same thing with the Podge, but that's available in your local craft store. A lot of this stuff is. When it comes to these tools, again, a knitting needle, double pointed knitting needle, something with an even shaft, a skewer, those are absolutely fine to use to roll your beads. If you like gadgets, or if you want a tool, then I will make sure that I link to these and to the company that I got them from. Again, any glue, anything that you need. So I hope this answered some questions. I hope it was worth the wait. But again, the second part will come out where show you how we can wrap them, how you can close up those holes, and everything else. As always, products linked down below in the video description. I want to thank you so much just for stopping by and spending a lot of time when it comes to this video with me. If you haven't already subscribed yet, please do, and make sure you ring the bell, because there's always something different that's coming out. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day, and if it's the day that I'm having here, it is a beautiful day. But everyone, please remember what's most important. Always, it doesn't matter what we do, always be creative. Take care.